I've done a 29-year career for the United Nations, less 1 month. And it's been in a diverse number of areas. I began with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. I worked for them for over 11 years. I served in Southeast Asia at the peak of the Vietnamese boat people crisis. And thereafter, I've had the experience of working in places like Geneva, which was the headquarters of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, and New York, to which I moved after I left UNHCR to join the peacekeeping staff of the United Nations. Having worked in peacekeeping, my main focus was the former Yugoslavia during the civil wars that ripped apart that country in the early 90s. I then also worked in Kofi Annan's cabinet when he was Secretary General, and I headed my own department as Under Secretary General. So again, I've had a fairly diverse experience, one which has been intellectually stimulating, professionally rewarding and satisfying, and at the same time deeply challenging. It was not a question of easy work or theoretical work or work on pushing files and papers. It involved walking through minefields, spending time in refugee camps, trying to rescue refugees in desperate conditions, negotiating tough asylum issues with governments, and at the same time trying to move forward in the peacekeeping arena despite all the political divisions in the Security Council. So it was a very diverse sort of experience. My experience gave me a chance, of course, to see many parts of the world, and I do remember in particular a visit to Iraq in February 1998 when there was the threat of bombing at that time at the peak of the sanctions. And while I went there in a professional capacity and I did my professional work, I also took the time to go off and see the book souk in Al-Mutanabi Street, where the middle class in those days were selling their own libraries in order to make enough money to be able to eat. And that experience led to an essay in the New York Times Book Review called Bookless in Baghdad, which then became a collection of literary essays that I published recently by that title.